the Baloch cause and took the issue of the Baloch nation in the British Parliament. So, to begin with, I'd like our friend to please connect Mr. John McDonald, so he'll be sharing the story.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I can't be with you physically today. Parliament is in session and we have some business that we have to deal with today and tomorrow, and I can't miss. I want to just give a very brief report on the activities that we're undertaking at the moment in the UK Parliament to raise the issues with regard to human rights in Balochistan. We've held a recent debate in Parliament to ensure that human rights in Balochistan are highlighted, but also to seek action from the United Kingdom government in its relationship with Pakistan and also in its promotion of human rights globally. In the debate, we ensured a number of MPs participated to ensure that people within the United Kingdom are increasingly aware of the situation that are facing people in Balochistan. Of course, the United Kingdom has a specific responsibility with regard to this country because of its historic past, both in terms of its colonialisation of the area, but then also at the end of its colonial period, the way in which Britain walked away. And although there are hopes at that time and the state was established as an independent state, the commitment that was given was reneged upon and the Pakistani army invaded and incorporated Balochistan within Pakistan. That, I believe, means that the United Kingdom has a continuing responsibility as an ex-colonial power and also by its failure to uphold the rights of the Balochistan people during that period when the British withdrew. We recognise that since then there have been consistent struggles for independence, and those struggles have been based upon the anger that there is about the undermining of the culture, language, and economic well-being of the Baloch people. In the Parliament, we tried to ensure that other MPs and Parliament as a whole became aware of the way in which Baloch culture, language has been marginalised and undermined. But also we emphasised the vast natural resources that should be available to enrich the Baloch people. And yet they face such hardship and poverty because the exploitation of those natural resources have not been to their benefit. That's why we expressed our concerns about the imposition of major development projects without consultation or consent of the Baloch people. And that includes the way in which the China-Pakistan economic corridor has raised concerns about the displacement of local communities, the demographic changes that have taken place, and also the lack of control and transparency about the distribution of the benefits of these developments. But in particular, the debate that we held was to focus on the human rights violations that are taking place and have taken place for so long. We drew attention to the UK Parliament the mounting evidence of systematic abuses and disregard for human rights. In the debate, I drew attention to the independent reports that have taken place from Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, who have documented the widespread abuse that's taking place. but also the impunity of the security forces responsible for these violations, and we call for them to be held to account. One of the most concerning aspects of the abuse of human rights has been the frequency of the abductions and enforced disappearances. Again, we're shocked at the scale of what's been happening, the way in which intellectuals, students, lawyers, journalists and others have been subjected to this horrific practice carried out by the Pakistani security forces. The way in which people have been held incommunicado and subject to torture. And also, yes, tragically, the number of people that have been forcibly disappeared but then later found dead. We described it, as you have, this brutal kill and dump policy that's left families shattered and communities traumatized, and has created an atmosphere of fear and silence. We've also drawn attention to the United Kingdom government, the way in which freedom of expression and assembly has been significantly curtailed. Journalists facing violence for reporting the truth, censorship, threats, and in addition to that, the way in which residents are denied their ability to assemble and express their grievances without being targeted by the Pakistani security forces. I want to pay tribute to the women who organised the Long March from Quetta to Islamabad. I want to pay tribute to them because of what they endured in terms of the way that they were targeted, the way in which they harassed and treated brutally by the security forces. I want to pay tribute in particular to Dr. Maran Barok, who led the march and even now is receiving serious death threats and feels her life is in danger, as is many others. The forced disappearances of political activists and students and teachers has almost become the norm now, and that is truly shocking. So the actions we've taken within the UK Parliament is, yes, we wrote to the Minister, Lord Ahmad, and he has raised these abuses of human rights with the Pakistani authorities. We've agreed now that as a delegation we will meet the Minister again to talk about the strategy in this coming period. One of the demands that we're placing is that there should be an independent investigation and report into human rights abuses and the way in which the security services are operating, as I say, with impunity. We want to echo the demands that many of you in the audience today have made. First of all, for the end of the military operations within Pakistan by the Pakistani authorities and the Pakistani security forces. The protection of human rights. To making sure that the residents, the population, the people themselves also benefit from the resources of the region, the country. And that means resource rights. And it also means cultural preservation, preservation of the culture and language. And of course, upholding the right to freedom, the right to people to decide their own futures, the right to self-determination. We place on the agenda of the UK government a number of specific issues. First of all, that they should be reviewing bilateral aid to Pakistan to ensure none of that aid is being used for oppression and suppression within Balochistan itself. Secondly, that the United Kingdom now should be doing all it can to put pressure on the Pakistan authorities to ensure that those who are protesting and marching in defence of human rights, their safety is secured and their rights of assembly and expression are protected. We've also asked the United Kingdom government to collaborate with other human rights organisations to monitor the situation and prepare independent reports. But also, it is about the United Kingdom expressing its support for those human rights defenders who are so courageously operating to protect human rights and basic civil liberties. We're asking the UK government also to review its trade policies with Pakistan and insert into those trade policies, those trade agreements, human rights conditions, so that if human rights are abused, that trade policies will be withdrawn. We also want to ensure that the United Kingdom now coordinates with other European countries in particular, but other countries across the globe, to ensure that we do all we can to protect human rights of the of people. Finally, we've also said that we need to recognise the rights of refugees and asylum seekers who are fleeing the country as a result of the abuse of human rights, and to ensure that they are given refuge and protected here. All of those actions we are putting on the agenda of the United Kingdom government. We believe by playing our role in the United Kingdom Parliament of setting out the truth of what's happening, setting out the depiction of the way in which Pakistan security forces are abusing human rights and civil liberties. In that way, we can raise the level of understanding of what's happening, but also we can raise the commitment from the United Kingdom to act to ensure that this abuse of human rights is brought to an end, but also to hold to account those who are the abusers themselves. I wish every success to today's conference. We will continue to work all we can within the United Kingdom to support you, and we will work closely in developing the strategy for protection of human rights in the coming years. Solidarity.
Thank you very much, respected John. So, as Mr. John Economist was saying, that obviously the Baloch struggle, all these struggle, people are struggling for their freedom, for their self-determination, for their rights. They need solidarity. And what we have seen in the recent past has been a great support from yourself, John. Thank you, and your team. So, just to continue with the program, I will be calling our other guests. So I do really apologize. I didn't saw the guests were already here earlier. So I would like to call on stage Baloch writer and intellectual Dr. Nasir Rashid to please come and join the panelists. Thank you. We were expecting from our friend in World Sindhi Congress, Dr. Kulwana, to join, but I think he's not here. But we have respected Dr. Hidayat Bhutto to be with us. I would like to request him to please come and join the speakers. Thank you. So, to continue with the speakers, I would like to request our next distinguished guest to talk about obviously his experience about Balochistan, because our next speaker is Carlos Rotuza. He is the only international journalist who has reported from 3 parts of Balochistan. We had the part in Afghanistan, Iran, and Pakistan. His work has been published by several media outlets such as The Guardian, The Independent, Al Jazeera English, and Politico, among others. His last book is about Balochistan, and it will be published in April 2024. So, Mr. Carlos, please.
You want to down?
So, can you all hear me? So good morning. Thank you. I want to thank first the Baloch National Movement for having me here. It's a real pleasure and an honor. And it's always a great chance also to meet old friends, new friends. Yeah, very happy. And I also want to thank you all for joining us here today. I guess that's my biggest contribution as a non-Baloch journalist is to try to shed light on the media blackouts imposed on this part. Since I started covering Balochistan 15 years ago, I have told the story to many people who didn't even know such a place existed. Geologists have, we all know, most of us here, we know that geologists have labeled Balochistan as the closest place to Mars on planet Earth. As a journalist, I can assure you all that at least where I live, we get more news from Mars than from Balochistan, and I'm not joking. From time to time, we hear about these hurricanes in Mars. We hear that they found water, we hear that they found ice. We even know the exact temperature on the surface. Now, try to remember the last time you heard or read about Balochistan. That's what I tell people around me, obviously non-Balochistan. At the beginning of 2014, 5 years after my first trip to Balochistan, I worked on a story about what was the area so overlooked by the international media. Yes. How come a territory nested between Afghanistan, Pakistan and Iran remains invisible to an outside world, which at the same time is so familiar with terms such as Taliban, Ayatollahs, Al-Qaeda? Why is Balochistan invisible to the outside world? I've been asked this question very often by my Baloch friends. We've also seen those brave Iranian women challenge the Ayatollahs, or even those struggling to go back to class in Afghanistan. Ask around. Ask around about that unprecedented women-led protest which started from Balochistan to Islamabad a few weeks back. They are nowhere to be seen. For that first story on journalism in Balochistan back in 2014, I reached out to Ahmed Rashid. I wanted to get his take on the reasons behind the media blackout. A few months back, I was working on a similar story. A few months back, I mean, it's 2023. I was working on a similar story, so I called Rashid again. Do you want to refresh your quote? I asked him. And he replied, nothing has changed. You can leave it as it is. Balochistan is by far Pakistan's most hermetic province, even more than several among the tribal areas. Reporting in Balochistan without permission almost means being automatically expelled from the country. Conact was a correspondent for the New York Times when he was brutally beaten in Quetta in 2006 by a group of men who identified themselves as members of a special section of the Pakistani police. They told her that she lacked permission to be in Quetta. After 9 years as an Islamabad correspondent for The Guardian and the New York Times, Declan Walsh was expelled from the country in 2013 for undesirable activities. He had written an article about enforced experiences in Balochistan. Declan never went back to Pakistan since then. There are a few similar cases, but it's a short list. As I said, hardly any colleague is ready to cope with all these hurdles, especially in a moment when journalism is facing one of its biggest crises ever. People are not ready to pay for news content, whereas journalists need to keep paying bills. But that's another story. For obvious reasons, I cannot disclose how I managed to get to Balochistan and come back without being harassed or even worse. I guess I was just lucky. Today I am vetoed both in Iran and Pakistan for covering stories which the ruling class of both countries want to hide from the outside world. It's not just about the Baloch, It's also about the Kurds, the Hazaras, the Christians, the Ismailis, the Ahmadis, the LGBT community, the bloggers, the women who take to the street demanding the most basic things. The list of the persecuted in this part of the world is endless. Even if I got the visa stamp on my passport, I still wouldn't dare to go. As a reporter who doesn't speak Farsi or Balochi or Urdu, I have to rely on local people who can arrange meetings and eventually translate those for me. I don't think I'd be killed if I was caught reported in Balochistan without permission. But the people who have helped me to conduct my work would be in serious trouble. They would likely be disappeared or hanged. Paradoxically, Afghanistan had turned into my safest option to keep reporting on the Baloch and their conflict. Covering Balochistan through the Afghan backdoor was an option until the Taliban 2021 takeover. Today, Afghan visas are rare, especially for reporters like myself. Due to this firewall against the foreign press in 3 parts of Balochistan, their responsibility for reporting falls exclusively on local journalists. Covering the story of a murdered colleague, I was saying that the responsibility for covering Balochistan relies exclusively on local journalists. There's no way foreign journalists can go back, even those willing to go back will put everyone around them in trouble. But it's very dangerous, as we know, for local journalists. In the latest reports on press freedom worldwide, Reporters Without Borders ranks Pakistan 157, describing it as one of the most dangerous countries in the world for journalists. The Balochistan Union of Journalists points to more than 40 colleagues killed in Balochistan between bomb blasts and targeted killings, some of them committed outside the country. Reporters on the ground face constant threats from Pakistani secret services, Baloch movements and sectarian groups. Too often, we never get to find who is behind many of the attacks. As a result, many of our Baloch colleagues resort to self-censorship. It's simply not reported, and if Balochistan is not in Pakistan media, it will not reach the outside world either, as most of the Western media is set by press agencies. This was Ahmed Rashid's assessment 10 years ago. As I said before, nothing has changed. I used the very same paragraph again for my last article. When you're a journalist in Balochistan, the security agencies contact you directly. They call you by phone. They reach out when you cover a press conference, a protest in the street. Thus began the story of Ahmad, an exiled Baloch journalist who asked me not to disclose his full name or country of residence to avoid reprisals on his family back home. Ahmad explained to me how difficult it was to cover news about Balochistan. One day, he got a phone call while he was covering the story of a murder call. We know who you and your brothers are. We also know that you have 2 children. What school do they go to? Do you want them to stay alive? He was told over the phone. He realized that he was being followed. A few days later, he was run over while riding his motorcycle to work. He was lucky to get out unharmed, and also that there were many people around. The car turned around and left. Kia Baloch, a seasoned reporter with several publications in The Guardian, The Telegraph, and the BBC, also told me how the government puts pressure on the media so that they do not hire you or you get fired. They drown you financially to cut your wings as a journalist. Eventually, you end up leaving the country. Kia is also in exile, but he doesn't want to disclose his exact coordinates. He says he suffers threats even there. It's not surprising. Most of us are familiar with Sadiq Hussein's story, a Baloch journalist whose body was found in a Swedish river 4 years back. Reporters Without Borders then pointed to the possibility that it was the work of Pakistani agencies. 8 months later, the body of Karima Baloch, a Baloch activist and human rights defender, was rescued from the waters of Balochistan. At this point, I guess the answer to the question raised at the beginning is already there. Balochistan is not reported because foreign journalists are prevented from getting to the area. When it comes to local journalists, they have to choose between keeping quiet or being killed. So, we can either accept the status quo imposed by the Pakistani military, the Ayatollahs and the Taliban, or we can keep trying until we manage to break the wall. Foreign reporters like myself are systematically discarded. As I said before, even if we managed to get in, we would only put everyone around us at risk. However, I'm convinced we can play a key role. It took me several years to realize that my biggest contribution to bringing the story out from Balochistan, as well as other media black holes, is to train local journalists, either online or on the ground, and to mediate between them and international media outlets. I've been doing this for the last 8 years, and I can tell you it works. At this point in my career as a journalist, there's nothing more rewarding than helping to get a story run from such spots such as Morocco-occupied Western Sahara, the Nagorno-Karabakh, and of course Balochistan. Local journalists are on the ground. They speak the language and they know what's happening around them. They just need the right tools to reach out to potential loudspeakers. I won't make a useless call on the international community or the United Nations. I want to be more practical. I want things to happen. I'm calling on my colleagues outside Balochistan, both journalists and editors, to help them bring the story out. We need to build a solid network of journalists who can communicate with each other through safe channels. They are available and we know how to use them. Needless to say, local journalists have to protect themselves. Even if those basic security measures are observed, it will still be dangerous for them. It's up to them to decide if it's worth the risk, and it's up to us to assist those who decide to take that step forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was Carlos, and as he was talking about the pains, the suffering, the oppression, the suppression, even the journalist faces in Balochistan, and the call to the journalists who can play a vital role in portraying and in raising more awareness about Balochistan. Thank you very much. To continue with, so I just want to make it clear at the beginning of the event, it was planned slightly differently, but because we had Mr. John McDonald and we had other commitments, so we just had to reshuffle the time between speakers. That's why we could not play the documentary, which we're supposed to be played right at the beginning of the event. So what we're going to do now, we will be playing a video documentary that will be showing what is life in Balochistan, how people go through every day, and what kind of sufferings they're facing. So I would like to request my technical friends if they can just the video, please.
Welcome to a journey through the heart of Balochistan, a region marked by its rich history, diverse geography, and resilient people engaged in a relentless struggle for justice, autonomy, and freedom. Over the past 2 decades, the region of Balochistan has been witnessing its 5th episode of a determined struggle for independence. This current phase stands as the largest largest, most intense, and uniquely distinct from its predecessors in nature. Unlike earlier episodes, which primarily consisted of guerrilla warfare within the mountainous terrain, the ongoing movement has expanded its scope to encompass diverse aspects of Baloch society and geography. It now involves active participation not only in rural areas, but also in urban settings, incorporating service politics, media, and a notable role played by women. However, it is important to recognise that this contemporary movement is rooted in the historical continuum of Balochistan's quest for sovereignty, a struggle initiated soon after Balochistan's sovereignty was infringed upon on March 27, 1948. On this unfortunate day, Balochistan was annexed militarily by the near-made Pakistani state, marking the beginning of a long and tumultuous journey.
Balochistan का पाकिस्तान में 48 जबरन कब्जा कर लिया 27 मार्च को.
Situated at the eastern extremity of the Iranian plateau, is presently divided nearly equally between Pakistan's Balochistan province and Iran's distant Balochistan province.
सबसे बड़ी जरूरत यह है कि पाकिस्तान की कब्जे और उसकी गुलामी से बलोचों को निजात दिलाया जाए.
Pakistani occupation of Balochistan. The tumultuous relationship between Balochistan and the Pakistani state has its roots in the very formation of Pakistan in 1947. 3 months before Pakistan's establishment, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, often referred to as the founder of Pakistan, engaged in negotiations for the freedom of Balochistan from British rule by acting as a hired lawyer for the Khan of Conact, the ruler of Balochistan. The discussions around Balochistan's relationship with Pakistan became a critical issue. This led to a series of meetings involving the Viceroy, Jinnah, and the Khan of Conact. Initially, a communique dated August 11, 1947, recognised Conact as an independent sovereign state with distinct treaty relations with the British government. The current struggle for self-determination in Balochistan has gained momentum in recent years, fueled by a deep-rooted desire for autonomy, justice, and the recognition of the Baloch people's rights. This ongoing movement reflects the resilience and determination of the Baloch people to secure a better future for themselves and their land. The situation in Balochistan is marked by severe human rights violations that demand the attention of the international community. The systematic abuses and disregard for human rights have not only caused immense suffering for the Baloch people, but have also raised alarms about the need for urgent intervention to address these issues: abduction, enforced disappearances, and killings. One of the most alarming aspects of the situation in Balochistan is the alarming frequency of abductions and enforced disappearances. Baloch activists, intellectuals, students, lawyers, journalists, and other individuals have been subjected to these horrific practices, often carried out by Pakistani security forces. These individuals are often taken without due process, held incommunicado, and subjected to torture. Tragically, many of the victims who have been forcibly disappeared are later found dead, their bodies bearing signs of torture. The brutal kill and dump policy has left families shattered and communities traumatized, creating an atmosphere of fear and fake encounters. It is an alarming and recurrent practice of the military to stage fake encounters, disguising the killings of victims of enforced disappearances as casualties in battle, with hundreds of such cases reported to date. Recently, a fake encounter was conducted by the CTD in Balochistan. 4 previously abducted Baloch youth, including Balach Baksha, were reportedly killed by Pakistani forces. This disturbing trend of extrajudicial actions must be condemned. Human rights organisations working in Balochistan reported the enforced disappearance of Mullah Baksha on October 29, 2023. He was abducted from his home by Pakistani forces in Turbat. The human rights organisation Conact reported the enforced disappearance of Nabi Baksh Baloch. and Adil Asa, victims of the Balochistan incident on August 2023. They were reportedly abducted by Pakistani forces on August 22, 2023, in Turbat City. On November 19, 2023, Pakistani forces perpetrated a tragic incident, killing 3 individuals, Adil, Shah Jahan, and Nabihad, by planting explosives in a vehicle and staging it as a terrorist act. These individuals had been forcibly disappeared while in the custody of the Pakistani army. Furthermore, Shokar, Zahir, Birjan, and Ahmed Khan remain held by the Pakistan army. As of now, a significant development is the ongoing Long March against fake encounters in Makran. Families of the victims have embarked on a journey toward the capital, Quetta, in protest against these heinous acts. This courageous march is taking place even as we communicate.
Thank you very much. This was the documentary that shows the plight of Baloch people in Balochistan, how the Pakistani state, the military, the intelligence agencies are treating them, how the human rights violations are being carried out without question, because no one can report that, no one can tell the world what is happening because of the state separation and the brutal policies. So, to continue with, we'll be calling our next. Before that, I'd like to thank Dr. Aisha Siddiqa, who's just arrived and joined us. Thank you very much. She's one of our another key speaker. So, and to continue with our speakers, we have. We have a video from one of our guests who is not here physically today, Peter Tetchell. So Peter Tetchell has been campaigning for human rights, democracy, LGBT plus freedom and global justice since 1967. He has been a firm supporter of the Baloch liberation cause for more than 1 decade. So, through the Peter Tetchell Foundation, he currently campaigns for human rights in Britain and internationally. So, I'd like to request my technical support friends to please play Mr. Peter Tetchell's video.
Greetings to Balochistan human rights defenders and allies assembled at the United Nations in Geneva. I send you solidarity and want to reassure you that although your struggle has been long, hard, and often painful with great suffering, you will win in the end. You have a just cause and justice will prevail. But how we get to the place where Balochistan is free and independent, that's an issue we must think about and discuss. And what I want to do is outline some provisional ideas. I'm not saying I've got all the answers, I haven't. But I want you to consider these suggestions about a possible way forward to advance the cause of Balochistan. The number one priority is there needs to be a roadmap for peace, self-determination, independence. A roadmap which charts how we get from where we are to where Balochistan wants to be. We need to have a roadmap that can be presented to the United Nations and other international bodies and national governments so they get a sense of how progress can be made. What are the practical, tangible steps? What I'm suggesting today is modeled on the kind of program that the African National Congress had in South Africa its Freedom Charter, which set out its goals and objectives and then was augmented by a plan of action to secure an end to the apartheid regime. So for Balochistan, I want to suggest 6 steps as a provisional roadmap for peace, self-determination, and independence. The first of these is a ceasefire and the cessation of all military operations by all sides, both the Pakistan government and Baloch liberation fighters, followed by the withdrawal of barracks of troops and paramilitaries, and a halt to construction of new military bases and outposts by Pakistan, with independent monitoring and supervision by UN observers and peacekeepers. Second, the release of all political prisoners and a full account of the fate of all disappeared persons. Third, open access to all parts of Balochistan for journalists, aid agencies, and human rights organizations. Fourth, the right of return for displaced refugees, the restoration of their property, and compensation for losses caused by the conflict. Fifth, end inward colonization of Balochistan by non-Baloch settlers. And sixth, a UN-supervised referendum on self-determination, offering the people of Balochistan the option of independence. Now, those are 6 ideas. They're only drafts, they're only provisions, but I think they suggest a clear way forward, a program that can be put to human rights organizations, governments, and international bodies around the world to show how the current conflict can be ended and how Balochistan's freedom can be achieved. But also, to go with this roadmap, there needs to be a clear program to set out what a new independent Balochistan would look like. Because no government is going to give Balochistan a free pass, a carte blanche. They want to know what you stand for, what you would do if you won your independence. And this is really crucial to securing international support. People want to know, what would you do if you had power and government? So I want to suggest another 6 ideas about the potential basis for a free and independent Balochistan. These are just my suggestions. They're not set in stone. It is up to you as Baloch people to decide. So first, the principle of social justice, equality, and human rights for all Baloch people, in accordance to the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other international statutes. Second, land reform. The right of every adult Baloch person to have a share of land ownership. Third, the redistribution of wealth and power to all the people of Balochistan to secure a fair and just society. Fourth, a secular state where people of all faiths and none have equal legal status and where no religion is privileged in law, government, public policy, or institution. Sixth, democratic and personal freedoms, including free, multi-party elections, the right to protest, freedom of speech and the press, the right to strike, and all the basic fundamental principles as enshrined in the international human rights statutes, such as not just the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but also the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And sixth, a UN Commission of Inquiry into disappeared persons and the victims of detention without trial. A full investigation of all acts of torture and extrajudicial killings, including the victimization of Baloch national leaders and ordinary Baloch citizens. Now, I just reiterate, these are just my ideas. They are not set in stone. It is up to you as Baloch people to decide. I support you and stand with you. But I want you to know and understand that having concrete, practical steps for a roadmap to peace and independence is absolutely vital. To have a clear program about what the shape of future Balochistan will be is equally vital. If you want to win international support, you need these documents. It's up to you to decide, and I will support you. Long live your freedom struggle. Long live the people of Balochistan. Thank you.
This was Mr. Peter Tetchel, who is a great supporter of Baloch cause. He shared some of his idea, which the Baloch movement can definitely use and can be beneficial for our cause. Going forward, I would like to call another speaker who was supposed to be here with us, but she could not make it physically, so she'll be doing a speech from live session. So just going to make sure if she's available.
Hi, yes, I am.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next speaker is a great friend of Balochistan, a human rights activist, someone who has been in Balochistan, who has seen the sufferings of people from Balochistan directly, be the victims of the state operations or the natural disaster. So the next speaker is Zrumbesh, and I would like to ask her please share words with us. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you so much, Baloch National Movement, for giving me this opportunity. I will start with, speaking about Balochistan and highlighting the issues of Balochistan. Actually makes me also a victim as I am in exile. So this is the state of affairs in Pakistan that whosoever, even if it's a non-Baloch, just tries to speak about the human rights abuses and violations in Balochistan, they are also either killed or go missing as well. And then some of us who are lucky like me, are in exile. If I consider myself lucky. Anyway, so I saw that there are many struggles going on globally. Struggles against injustices, racism, secular colonialism, occupation, oppression, and new form of new colonialism and many more. Balochistan's struggle experiences multiple oppressors. Pakistan, who acts as a colonial master and has worked colonial practices continued against Balochs in Balochistan. Then comes China, big corporations who are there to do the resources, minerals, gold of Balochistan, but also support and strengthen Pakistan's colonial practices in Balochistan. And this is probably, obviously, not new, as many conflicts are more or less similar, or in some cases, all kinds of oppression going on. I consider the third oppression that Baloch and Balochistan faces is perhaps, the worst kind of oppression, as it further strengthens these oppressive regimes and their inhumane practices and policies. And that is global isolation and almost no solidarity. The complete international silence on one of the worst political and humanitarian crises ongoing for past 76 years in Balochistan. And I'll explain why I call it the worst. It allowed these worst policies and practices to happen with complete impunity by the oppressors. They, without any fear of accountability, continue with all kinds and forms of oppression, occupation, colonial practices that we see in Balochistan in its most darkest and most violent forms. And there comes the most aspiring role of Balochistan's own politics of indigenous people, which is organic, which is solid, informed, strongest, and bravest, born out of oppression, and is continued also for past 76 years, despite this complete international silence. So I find that this is the most beautiful aspect of any struggle, and in this case of the Lord's struggle. This shows resilience and also the grounded roots of the political struggle and resistance. I have seen, I have witnessed, from my experience from a child who, just learns to speak to someone who is very, very old in some far-off village, how they are resisting and living and dying with a dream of and hope of a free Balochistan from occupation and oppression. So, this is the reason that this struggle continues, as it is very deeply rooted. Another worst form of oppression which is connected to this third aspect is the fear. The fear is so real that people, activists, academics, journalists, even politicians, in some cases, tend to silence themselves on the issue of Balochistan. In Pakistan, Balochistan is considered a red line for anyone, even for non-Balochs. People from mainland Pakistan, anyone who speaks on the human rights abuses in Balochistan. Activists in the past who spoke have been murdered, as in case of a very prominent Pakistani activist, Sabir Mahmood. Internationally, even some global rights organizations are silent on Balochistan, as they don't want to risk their partners in Pakistan. Academics feel threatened and then try to stay away from speaking or organizing anything on Balochistan or even from writing anything on Balochistan. Balochs and their allies are definitely not safe even outside Pakistan, as in case of mysterious deaths of key Baloch figures like Karima Baloch and Sajid Hussain in Canada and in Sweden. And this leads to further silence and hence the isolation. And the severity of this third form of violence is so big that even the international organizations who work otherwise in conflict zones or even in countries facing genocide at the moment, like Palestine, they are not allowed to work in Balochistan. And from my limited experience, I've seen in 2013, when the worst earthquake in Balochistan happened, organizations like MSF, Doctors Without Borders, even the UN bodies were not allowed to enter Balochistan, especially in affected areas like Awan. The mainstream Pakistani political parties were not allowed, except the Islamist parties like Jamaat-e-Islami or the welfare wings of otherwise banned extremist Islamist organizations. So such is the state of silence on the issue of Balochistan, which can and then becomes almost complicit. Now I come to a unique but phenomenal and inspiring aspect of the Baloch movement, the beautiful transformation of an on-ground movement into women-led movement, which has very painful roots. It is completely born out of oppression, as in 2016 when an entire generation of Balochs was killed. And since then, the political leadership, workers, students, professionals have been abducted or being killed or the lucky ones are exiled. The absence of men, Baloch men, has resulted in the practices of the participation of Baloch women, young and old, in the active politics in leading positions. And why the recent women-led movement was phenomenal and inspiring? Mainly, I would like to mention 3 areas where they contributed incredibly well. In the Pakistan political context, Balochistan issues is considered a peripheral issue, which was not part of the mainland's discussion. Uh, Media silence was always there, is there. Yes, we cannot undermine the power and potential of social media, which has definitely changed the political dynamics and has helped in amplifying Baloch voices. The timing of this Baloch Women Long March was very critical. It happened at a time when Pakistan mainland parties, especially Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the largest political party in Pakistan, was facing oppression, continue to face oppression, and the people came to the realization that how the military violates and controls fundamental human rights. I don't want to go into details as the issue is well covered in the international media, the crackdown against Pakistan's political party PTI. But because of the situation that the mainland Pakistanis faced, they were able to connect. And there was a space that we saw that the women Baloch March, they gained public support. However, they faced worst treatment from the Pakistan authorities and all kind of oppression they faced in the days when there was a sitting in the capital of Pakistan. The key aspect of the Baloch women-led march is that they are amazingly linking their movement with the global anti-colonial movements. Balochistan has always been seen as Pakistan's internal issue or as an exception or as a low-scale political domestic conflict. The women-led movement have connected with these vocabularies which were always there as a part of Baloch political consciousness. But these young women, they have re-employed this language like displacement, secular colonialism, occupation, and have brought back and used these terminologies in a more global context. In a way, they have challenged the Pakistan's dominating narrative. By using this language, this vocabulary, they are showing the issue is much more bigger and serious than how Pakistan state tries to present or portray it to the world. The issue needs to be seen into a new colonial context. And that's what the Baloch women, they are telling. Baloch women, especially young leaders like Mara, Sami, Sabia, Seema, they are under severe threats. And I would like to appeal to the UN and to the international community to ensure the safety of the Baloch human rights defenders, such as Mara, Sami, Seema, and all. And men, of course, Baloch men. Enforced disappearances is one of the most pressing issues. It is constantly happening, as respected MP John McDonald also said, that it has become a norm in Balochistan. And there is complete impunity around the issue, there is no accountability, and international community, special rapporteurs, working group on enforced disappearances, international journalists, I think it's a responsibility for everyone to demand access to Balochistan, to conduct an independent investigation or review of the situation. And I'll just end my talk here and my support, solidarity, and long live free Balochistan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noor. As Noor was talking about the resistance, about the resilience, about the struggle of Baloch women, and in recent past, the Baloch women has not only shown the world that the Baloch are not gonna give up on their struggle, on their resistance, or their movement, but they've also tell the world if the state oppression, if the brutalities continue, where the male part of the society are being targeted, subjugated, abducted on a daily basis, they will come up, they will take over the struggle, and they will lead it to its destination. And to continue further, talking obviously about the unveiling injustice and Balochistan's political and human rights struggle and the global perspective and responsibilities. I would now like to ask a colleague of ours who is also a distinguished speaker, Hatim Baloch, who is a human rights activist and a political activist. He is one of the central committee members of the Baloch National Movement and the coordinator of PANC, that's the human rights organization working under the Baloch National Movement. So I would like Hatim Baloch to please shed light on the situation.
Thanks to the Baloch National Movement, especially the Foreign Department, for organizing this conference. As you heard that I represent PANC. PANC is a human rights department of Baloch National Movement, which aims to raise awarenesses and promote human rights in Balochistan. PANC focuses on the protection and promotion of human rights in Balochistan by conducting investigations, documenting human rights abuses, and advocating for change. The basic rights of indigenous Baloch are being continuously violated since 1948. Pakistani state forces have been carrying out policy of genocide through military operations. As a result of these brutal operations, thousands of Baloch were killed, forcefully disappeared, and thousands were forced to escape from their hometowns and became refugees like us. Despite efforts to seek political solutions, Pakistani authorities, especially the Pakistani military regime, to the Baloch movement has involved extreme violent crackdown, which leads to the killing and disappearances of thousands of Baloch political leaders and other actors. Sadly, many of those who went missing later turn up dead, frequently exhibiting signs of torture on their bodies. The people of Balochistan have been enduring to an increasing extent of Pakistani state oppression for the last 2 decades. The state forces have been perpetrating multiple human rights violations on a daily basis with complete impunity. The occurrence of state encounters, as you heard in the video, targeting innocent civilians in Balochistan is deeply concerning and alarming. Where Baloch individuals are being subjected to enforced disappearances of Pakistani forces and intelligence agencies and killed in fake encounters. Mostly these fake encounters are claimed by CTD, which is called Counter-Terrorist Department of Police, and declare them as terrorists without giving them fair trial. It has been observed that both the Counter-Terrorism Department, CTD, and Pakistani Army have a documented history of involvement in state encounters of innocent individuals in such cases. According to the United Nations Working Group on Enforced Disappearances, which stated in its report of 2016 that in Balochistan more than 14,000 people have been missing. PANC has confirmed that at least 75 people were extrajudicially killed and 576 people have been forcefully disappeared in Balochistan last year. 2023. In last 2 months of this year, January and February 2014, 72 cases of enforced disappearances been reported and 16 civilians have been extrajudicially killed. Despite to all these atrocities, it's very sad, and the sad part of the story is that the human rights groups and digital media, as our friends already mentioned, that are not allowed to visit Balochistan. and the local media is also being forced not to cover the stories of Pakistani atrocities. This is the reason that still Balochistan, in the words of its peace-loving people, is still unheard. If the violation of human rights and these atrocities continue with impunity in Balochistan and no solid steps were taken to stop it, then it would not just turn Balochistan an epicenter of violence, but will surely be harmful for the peace of the region. This is the responsibility of the powerful institutions, HR bodies, and countries in the world who are aware of these atrocities, human rights violations, and war crimes in Balochistan, and yet still hesitate asking Pakistan. Balochistan and its indigenous people need your support. Raise your voice and support the people of Balochistan, which may say thousands die. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was Hatim Baloch, the coordinator of HAN, and he was shedding light on the human rights situation in Balochistan and how people are suffering on a daily basis. So going forward, I would like to call another distinguished speaker to share light on the situation. Now, in Pakistan, there are many oppressed nations under the Pakistani occupation, the subjugation, be it the Baloch and the Sindhi. We are lucky that we have one of the great friends of Balochistan and a senior leader of one Sindhi Congress, Dr. Hidayat Bhutto. He is the organizer of EU and UK. I would like Dr. Hidayat Bhutto to share his stories.
Thank you, Akin. I'm thankful for Baloch National Movement for giving us this opportunity to highlight our common issues. Balochistan and Sindh has been neighboring countries and brotherly nations. Since history, thousands of years, our old culture and our old historical nations are together, and we are today subjugated and oppressed by the same oppressor which has occupied Balochistan in 1948. In Balochistan, the crimes of the state is such a huge level where the international community is the time to must intervene and protect our brotherly nations, enforce the disappearances and extrajudicial killings and kill and dump policy of the state of Pakistan against Baloch people has been so high that this is the time to save the nation, to save the Balochistan, because they have developed a policy of genocide in Balochistan. Hundreds and thousands of people has been disappeared and killed. Perhaps there is any home in Balochistan where we won't see any victims of the state terrorism and the state subjugation. Almost every house in Balochistan has seen this crisis and has gone through this state operation. Even the recent floods in Gwadar and in Sindh, they tried to let them, Baloch people and Sindhi people, to be dead because they want their resources and they want Balochistan but without Baloch people. They want Sindh but without Sindhi people. So our resources are very dear to them, but they hate our nations, they hate our culture, they hate our history, and they want to eliminate us from the map of Sindh. and map of all the world. We, as a Sindhis, we are subjugated from the same oppression. We have been the victims of enforced disappearances as our Baloch nation and Baloch people are here. We are seeing every day disappearances and extrajudicial killings. And this policy of kill and dump has been started in Sindh as well on 16th of February. A renowned political worker and a teacher, Hidayat Loa, whose two daughters, Sorat and Saswi, has developed an organization which is called Voice of Missing Persons of Sindh, and they have kept threatening them that we will punish them, we will punish them. And their father, who was abducted for more than 2 years, Hidayat Loa, who was a school teacher. And on 16th of February, they targeted him and killed him. And their killers, the culprits, has been notified and has been seen
politics on the Iranian, on the western side of the border, goes on in Persian. And I think a lot goes on in Urdu, on the eastern side. But it's impossible to establish a country without a language. So therefore, in one sense, I said, because there is an increased demand on the western side in Iran for the ability to teach Balochi in primary schools, but with no language standard developed, that would be the same thing as what happened in 1991-92 when an attempt was made in Pakistan to launch this affair, namely the fact that the Baloch intellectuals among themselves could not agree on a standard, which then made a good excuse for the non-Baloch government to close this project. So unless the Baloch intellectuals take the linguistic issue seriously, I cannot see that there is any good future for Balochi. The Baloch politicians, intellectuals, journalists should take this challenge seriously. The language needs a standardized form, and the language needs polished literature, and the language, of course, needs to be taught in primary education. As long as there is no financial incentive in learning Balochi, most parents, actually this was also what happened in 1991, most parents didn't see any reason why their children should waste time to learn Balochi in schools, because this language is useless anyways. But that is what is needed. We need to strengthen the status of Balochi, first of all, in the mind of the Baloch speakers themselves. Many Baloch, as we know, have switched their language to Sindhi, to Persian, to other languages, to Arabic in the Gulf states, but we need to make an awareness of the fact that the Balochi language is not a backward language that is only from our grandmas and grandpas. It can definitely be a developed language that can take its step into the modern world and that can become a unified and standardized language. But here, Baloch intellectuals need to cooperate, need to be able to focus on the important things and consider linguistic principles for developing a language. So I'm basically calling on the Baloch intellectuals present at this meeting and other people that you will meet in different forums that now is the time to also pay attention to your language. Now is the time to encourage people to take their language seriously. Now is the time to urge your people to start writing in Balochi, to start mastering the Balochi language, not only as a spoken language at home, but that's not going to take the language further, but as a written language that can be used both for political discourse, for scientific discourse, and, as we already know, for literature, but not only for poetry, because poetry is the most well-developed genre. We need journalism in Balochi. That was actually very much how the Kurdish language gradually found its shape, by being used in Kurdish journals, oppositional journals, mind you, in the late 19th century, outside the Ottoman Empire, mainly. And then this development has continued. And today we are actually seeing, particularly for Central Kurdish, quite well agreed upon standard. For Northern Kurdish, which was suppressed heavily in Turkey for many, many years, there were a number of intellectuals, not that Sweden is a great country, no, it's not, but in those days, Sweden gave quite considerable support to developing Kurmanji, Northern Kurdish, as a written language and develop the literature of Northern Kurdish. A lot of the early Northern Kurdish literature has actually been produced in Sweden and Germany. And this variant of Kurdish is also finding its own shape and is being used more or less as a standardized language these days. Now, for the Balochi language, there are many challenges, there are many dialects. There's no teaching in schools, there's no government support, or very little government support, if any. So we really need to join forces if we don't want the Balochi language to be a memory in 70 or 80 years. I would urge all of you to take action in this regard. I also want to, of course, address all those mothers who have lost their children. Sadir Hussain was my student when he disappeared. It was an extremely hard blow for me. I will never overcome it totally, but it took me 4 or 5 months to somewhat recover mentally. And therefore, I can understand what a mother feels when their children are lost. However, I would urge you to not be so firm in your discourse what happened with Sadir. I read the police report. It's 100 pages long, and we cannot, for sure, draw any conclusions about what happened to Sadir. I cannot say anything about Karima Baloch. I'm not aware of that case, but I'm very much aware of Sadir Hussain's case. And I feel with his relatives, and I would just like to say we cannot draw any totally sure conclusions about what happened to him. And I know that he is listening to this. Thank you so much for your attention. All the best.
Thank you very much. This was Professor Rhea. She talked about many points, especially how important the language is and how important the role of the intellectuals, of the politicians, of the Baloch. I would say even every Baloch who wants the Balochi language to be secured, to be standardized, to not only be remembered, but to be used as an active and a strong language. There's something we definitely and we must do. Thank you very much once again. And to continue with our next speaker, I will be calling a Baloch scholar, Dr. Nasir Dashti. Dr. Nasir Dashti is a London-based writer on South Central Asian affairs. He is the executive president of the Baloch Human Rights Council. His books included the Baloch conflict with Iran and Pakistan, aspects of a national liberation struggle, that was published in 2017. The Baloch and Balochistan, a historical account from the beginning to the fall of the Baloch state, 2012. The Voice of Reason, 2008, and In a Baloch Perspective, 2008 as well. He has contributed numerous articles on current affairs related to South Central Asia in general and on Balochistan and Sindh in particular. I would like Dr. Nasir Dashti to share his thoughts.
I would like to briefly discuss two or three interconnected happenings in Balochistan. But when we discuss Pakistan in our discourses, we must remember that Pakistan is not a country, it's not a state in real time. It is an outpost of United Kingdom and the United States of America. It was not created by the will of the people. It was created only to safeguard the interests of the British Empire and the United States of America and that region. So what such kind of a state will do is anybody's guess. So what is happening to the oppressed nation in Pakistan, especially in Balochistan? The state has successfully manipulated its patrons or benefactors in the world. They are the only protector of their interests in that part of the world. Others are just your enemies. And if you protect us, if you give us money or financial support or military support, we will do your dirty job in that region. And in exchange, what they will do, they have found opportunities several times to crush the Baloch people in our lifetime. When Pakistan became a member of CETO, in return of financial and military aid, they thought that it is time to crush the nascent or only emerging Baloch resistance movement in 1950s and 1960s. For they imprisoned the Baloch leadership for years. They hanged Nawab Nurustan and his colleagues in 1962. And then same thing happened in 1970s when the Cold War began to speak, and nobody in the Western world or international community bothered to ask Pakistan why you are doing this. Because Pakistani army is the protector or guardian or the guards of their outposts. So when in the aftermath of the 9/11, the Western world occupied Afghanistan. It became became another chance for the military to crush the Baloch resistance. Because Pakistan was vital in many aspects to stabilize the Western presence in Afghanistan. Pakistani army got unlimited financial resources and military and political favors. So they thought it is the proper time to crush the Baloch resistance once and for all. We can observe that when the military in early 2000s, they began the military operation in Balochistan. There was no word from the international community of the civilized world. And they successfully exploited the weaknesses of the international community regarding the Afghan situation in crushing the Baloch national resistance. And I can visualize something very lethal, very dangerous to our people. For some months, they have been pressurizing Pakistani military for some reason, and now they have come to an understanding that they will supply some financial resources to the military, and the military, in my belief, in my experience, will take this opportunity to initiate another crushing initiative toward people in Balochistan. Now, 3 years ago, Afghanistan was delegated by the United States and the United Kingdom to the Pakistani military to secure their interests in that region, because they wanted to withdraw for some internal reasons. So now, on this service, they are providing financial and political support to the military regime. What I think the military regime will do, our military regime will continue to increase its plan, our strategy, to impose its strategy further and with force. That is, one is to entirely destroy the Baloch national identity, to destroy entirely the Baloch social and cultural values. They are portraying members of the death squad, local and international drug traffickers, and mullahs as the representative of the Baloch society. They are now openly giving the government of Balochistan, so-called province of Balochistan, to these people What are the consequences of such things? If it continues for example, 10 or 15 years, it means that after 10 and 15 years, our social, cultural, traditional, and national identity will be totally changed. When a drug trafficker represents you in international forums, when a district squad member will be your governor or government chief governor governing operative in the province, and when a mullah in a place like Gwadar will be the representative of your people, what will be our national identity? What we will be fighting for? So these are very dangerous situations. These are not, there is no safe ground left for us. And I think in the coming months, 2-3 months, we can see a crackdown on the only remaining activists. And I think there will be another spate of tell and dump policy. But what we can do, I think if people without friends, without a state to openly support us, we can only, with our limited academic and material resources, we can only focus, and I appreciate this initiative of Balochistan movement to focus the British parliamentarian, because Pakistan is nothing without the support of United Kingdom and the United States. One single statement from the government of United Kingdom and United States will shape the entire military and the social fabric of Pakistan. Only 6 months stoppage of aid to Pakistan will force the military regime to leave. So this, what we can do is to focus on the British and the United States policymakers, on the people concerned with South Central Asia. Because what we say international community, in real terms, international community is not Europe. International community is not Asia or Africa or Russia. International community simply means United States and its allies, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. They are the real gods of the world in today's geopolitical situation. There is no other pole. It is a unipolar world. So, I think with a coordinated effort, we can at least convince a section of the society in the United Kingdom and the United States that if you talk about human rights, if you talk about democratic values, if you talk about the right of self-determination of the nations, which was the term used by the United States President Woodrow Wilson. So consider the Baloch and Sindhis and other oppressed nations who have been wrongly incorporated by you people in a wrong, fake, and raw state. So that is what we can do. And I think the other thing which our people here in diaspora should convey to their friends in Pakistan that they should be prepared for a breakdown or a new kind of military operation, in whatever way they can serve their skin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir Baloch, explaining the situation and what my Pakistani state can do in the future, and how the powerful states, the West, what they can do to, in a way, stop them. So, thank you very much. And to continue the program further, I would like my colleague and the media coordinator of PANG, Jamal Baloch, to please come and carry on the seminar. Jamal.
Hello, good afternoon. To continue, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Aisha Siddiqa. Dr. Aisha Siddiqa is a senior fellow at the Department of War Studies at King's College, London. She is the author of 2 books, including the renowned Inside Pakistan's Military Command. Dr. Aisha Siddiqa.
Good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum to everyone here. I'm so delighted to be there and very appreciative of the consistency with which BNM gathers people every year and has this discussion on Balochistan. It's indeed an important discussion to have. Balochistan is a very important region. You may hate it, like it, dislike it, but technically, legally, constitutionally, Balochistan still remains a part of Pakistan. And even for Pakistanis who tend to ignore Balochistan, it's important to understand that it is the largest territory that makes up Pakistan. It has always been the case. And it is also one of the richest territories that make up Pakistan. Sadly, the human rights abuses have been natural. And they've been natural because the state and its authorities, what has always mattered is not people, but what has mattered is resources. Sadly, the state of Pakistan has always looked at Balochistan as, as a precious mine, as a place from where you go and hunt, get resources, hunt resources. And this is something which has happened for years. I remember, and I completely appreciate, when my Baloch brothers and sisters get bitter, they get angry, I completely understand. I grew up in Pakistan using natural gas from Sui. When Sui in Balochistan was the last place to get that natural resource. We never thought about, when using that resource, we would never think about how precious it was, and that it belonged to someone, or that before us, somebody else who owned those resources had a right over it. And for years, this is how it has been. These resources, and Pakistan has the problem with Balochistan's politics and the problem with Pakistan's politics for all these years, about 75 years, has been that Pakistan has managed to find friends and people in Balochistan they can speak to. They've managed to find leaders in Balochistan who will negotiate on those very precious resources. And whenever people have stood up and protested, then the state resorts to violence. So violence is that way natural, it has become sharper and sharper. And today, as I sit here amongst you and speak here, let me give you bad news that I perhaps see more violence coming the way of the Baloch society, not less. And I'll give you the reason why I think there's going to be more violence. It's because the new government in Pakistan, which wants to kind of run its economy, which is very desperate. I mean, they're saying the new politics is not geostrategy, it's geoeconomics. We're forgetting that this geoeconomics formula, where does it take us? It takes us towards Balochistan, which has one of the richest mineral resources. And Dr. Nasir talked about a kind of a coalition or kind of cooperation, historic cooperation between the United States and Pakistan. But let me tell you all these things, and I can challenge him, I can argue against it, but the fact of the matter is that all these arguments will come playing to us. Whoever is listening, whoever is talking about it, because this economic build-up of Pakistan would require cooperation and silence from the international community. They're ready to help. The clear differences between the United States and Pakistan on this issue, the United States is ready to help Pakistan. Mining is one of the sectors that has been selected. Now, what makes then Balochistan important for the Pakistani state is that, from one of the largest copper mines in the world, in Asia, Reko there has been Sendek. So from natural gas to copper mine, other resources in Balochistan, all of these are going to be excavated. Pakistan is seeking partnerships around the world for that. Let me show you. I remember, when was it? About 5-6 years ago, we used to be worried about the China-Pakistan economic corridor. China-Pakistan economic corridor is still there, but it's kind of almost dead in the tracks. And the new geoeconomics and the new alignment or the new equation that Pakistan is building, which says that they want to balance relations between the United States and China. But basically, it also means that it wants to get the United States and its allies in Pakistan, but very clearly in Balochistan as well. Who is going to be coming in Balochistan in the coming years? We saw the Chinese come. They've developed Gwadar and the infrastructure without providing anything good for the people. I mean, these are very unnatural projects. I mean, these are extraction-driven projects. It's a kind of extraction which is meant for corporations, which is meant for governments, which is meant for countries, not for people. How do you bring the people in? And what the Pakistani state has done is taken the shortcut. The shortcut is, I don't care. You agree with my project. If you don't, then you will disappear. You know, you will be another figure in human rights abuse at best, and I wouldn't care. So now, after Chinese are still there, but you have more people trying to come with Saudi Arabia, with UAE, planning to bring in its investment. It's still in its infancy. An oil refinery is being negotiated in Balochistan, still a far way away. But all of these projects, all of these people, the United States is eager to help Pakistan government in developing mining. Now, the problem is that all along, the voice of the Baloch has always gone in one form. It's all about violence. It's about people who are angry, who are fed by foreign countries, regional neighbors. Pakistan's approach has been, and it will continue to be that. I mean, it's either you come on my side. I mean, this morning I was reading that Sarfaraz Bukti, the new chief minister of Balochistan, has announced that he is going to open up the doors, let nationalists come and sit. It's a one-way door. It's not. He's not there. I mean, I'm very clear about that. What Sarfaraz Bukti is saying, it's not opening door for discussion and debate. And hearing what people want to say, or their demands, or what do they desire. What he's opening doors for is that I'm going to open doors, you come, you surrender, you give in, you surrender any form of political demands, and let's move forward. Sadly, this is something what the Pakistani state has done with the province of Sindh for very long. I mean, today, let's not shy away from the fact that there has been, over years, there has been a gradual absorption of the Sindhi middle class, of the Sindhi elite, into the power circles. I mean, today, which had never happened before in Pakistan's history, 3 of Pakistan's major generals today are Sindhis. The bureaucrats as well. And this is a formula which is being offered to Balochistan. Balochistan, of course, has its own history. Its own history of pride in its identity, and has fought a very different kind of a war with the Pakistani state. But I think it's important to understand that this is something which the Pakistani state may be incapacitated to understand. The separate identity, this separate pride, the eagerness to protect your own, own resources for your own people. That's something it cannot understand. How does one communicate with I think the important thing then is how does one communicate with the international community? How do you talk to the world? And I think what has happened very recently is a new chapter in Baloch struggle. And I'm referring to the brave and young women of Balochistan getting out. I mean, brothers and sisters sitting here, let me assure you that never had the eyes opened so much towards Balochistan as it has happened with these women coming out. Because, let me honest, international communities, community, the global powers get very, very nervous with the thought of balkanization. I'm not sure that they're ready for a balkanization of Pakistan at this point in time. But that doesn't mean that Baloch people should not get the attention and that they should not begin to think about this piece of land, of this territory, which is for you a matter of love. And for that, I think your biggest politics has to be human rights. Human rights is essential. I'm not going to name, but I recently had a conversation with somebody in the US government that said, well, Pakistan is important and we're looking at counterinsurgency in Balochistan. I said, well, I hope you don't look at this counterinsurgency. It's a very deep political issue as well. And you better look at it as a political issue. And I suddenly realized that politics of Balochistan was not perhaps reaching international capital. There is a need to build on that. There is a need to take the step forward with these brave sisters, daughters, mothers have taken, and take them to a next step. People around the world should understand what are they fighting for. And in fact, any of your conversation about, be it your desire for a separate identity, be your desire for control over your resources, I think it should somehow be gently connected with that human rights dimension. I think this is the time when we all gather every year. This is probably my third event with BNM. And my advice, request, whatever you may call it, is to you, is that this is a time that you should think about generating a strong political narrative. A separate identity may be a battle to be fought, maybe a long-term thing. It's not coming. And let me tell you, Peter Thatcher, I really appreciate the points that he stated about 6 issues which will attract. I don't think the international community is going to get attracted how secular you are. I don't think the international community is going to think really about whether you have democracy or not. I don't think they're going to look at if you're a secular state or not. Honestly, then nobody's going to give a damn about it. I think it's international community will think how serious you are. And that seriousness is something which you need to kind of put your heads together and see which direction are you going to take. Perhaps you're very intelligent people, sitting here, sitting around the world, getting good education. Your women are even smarter than you, I would say, right? Who've achieved so. I think it's important to kind of make the political game more sophisticated. And this is something which you need to think about. Sadly, and I'll end here, sadly, the fact of the matter is that for the Pakistani state, the plans to explore Balochistan's minerals, its precious minerals, its natural resources, those plans are afoot. There's no one in the larger international community who's going to make them reason. I think what's important is for you to insist on the human rights, but also the importance of why Baloch should not just be senior partners in that distribution, but they should, that they really own those resources. And your narrative must also kind of be built around that. It's important for you, for other, communities, for other nations living in Pakistan to understand. And not just look at you people from the lens of temporary bloodshed, but look at you from the lens of greater sophistication. Thank you.
You just heard Dr. Aisha Siddiqa. She highlighted that under colonial rule, how important Baloch people are and how important the Baloch land is for Pakistan. She also highlighted that the contradiction between Baloch will and military will results in enforced disappearances. She also highlighted the struggle of Baloch women who just recently marched from Quetta to Islamabad and recorded a historic protest in the face of oppression against oppression. Now I would like to give the floor to Dr. Naseem Baloch. Dr. Naseem Baloch is the chairman of BNM. He joined the Baloch national movement during his student days. Due to his dynamic character, he was also forced to disappear by the Pakistani army. He played a crucial role in organizing BNM in the diaspora. Before being elected chairman, he was the organizer of the BNM Diaspora Committee. Dr. Naseem Baloch.
Thanks, all of you. First of all, thanks the distinguished speakers, Dr. Nasir Lashmi, Dr. Aisha, Mr. Khalid, Dr. Dr. and the speakers who joined us through Zoom and video links. They were supposed to join us physically, but they didn't make it due to their busy schedule. I also extend my gratitude to them, John McDonnell, Peter Tejan, Karina Jamani, and Nuri Mariam, and thanks to all of you to participate in this event. Today, Balochistan is evidence. Human rights violations run rampant without youth abducted by Pakistani army in broad daylight. Many suffer brutal torture in torture chambers. Their mutilated bodies thrown in deserts and roadsides, while countless others languish in unknown dungeons, disappeared for years. The Pakistani army set ablaze our villages, subjecting our mothers and sisters to unspeakable horrors. We are denied the very right to life on our own land. Words alone may fail to convey the vast reality of Balochistan. The stories of oppression, violence, and genocide unfolding in Balochistan seem unreal to the modern and civilized world, but for us,
they are a harsh reality. How did we arrive at this point? During British rule over India, Balochistan maintained a distinct status bound to British through various treaties. When Britain announced its withdrawal, Balochistan's independence was formally declared. On 5th August 1947, Khan Kala, Lord Mountbatten, and Indian leaders convened in Delhi, agreeing to Balochistan's independence. Thus, on 11th of August, Balochistan's independence was announced by All India Media of Delhi and later published in New York Times, also there. That time. With the partition of India, Balochistan emerged as an independent state. However, Pakistan refused to accept Balochistan's sovereignty, initiating conspiracies against our nation. Despite Balochistan's resolute rejection of annexation to Pakistan, the Pakistani military intervention led to its occupation by force. Since then, Balochistan has endured ongoing adversities. 4 military operations preceded the current, now spanning over more than 2 decades. Pakistani forces, aided by intelligence agencies, commit heinous war crimes against the Baloch people. So Balochistan has become a battleground with army posts after every few kilometers. Even educational institutions are turned into military camps, but we can't see this due to the absence of international media, and so we can't hear the cries coming from there. Today, as a representative of our party and of the Baloch people, I want the conscientious and the civilized world to recognize the Pakistan Army's atrocities in Balochistan, which are the same as those they committed in Bangladesh. Humanitarian principles and international laws hold no sway over the Pakistani military. Thousands of Baloch mothers and sisters struggle for the release of their forcibly disappeared loved ones. Yet their pleas fall on deep ears. Shockingly, the global community also remains indifferent, allowing Pakistan to escalate its operation. As our distinguished speakers spoke a lot about the resources and atrocities, Balochistan, rich in resources, is plundered by the state of Pakistan. Our strategic location has attracted heavy Chinese investment, threatening regional power dynamics also. China has established naval bases under the guise of Gwadar deep sea port. We are struggling, we can say we are fighting alone against such a huge power that is China. The world must stand with the Baloch national movement in our struggle against the exploitation and obviously for regaining our freedom from the clutches of Pakistan. This is what I have to say for today's conference. I again want to thank my distinguished speakers and the participants and the team of the Geneva Press Club for this arrangement. I'm very thankful to you. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Baloch, chairman of Baloch National Movement. He discussed a wider angle of Balochistan, the human rights violations in Balochistan, enforced disappearances in Balochistan, the exploitation of resources, we are now moving towards the end of this conference. We are thankful to the guests and the speakers who joined us today. Now I would like the Deputy Coordinator of BNM Foreign Department and the Central Committee member of BNM, Niaz Baloch, to please come and to table the resolution in front of the conference.
Thank you very much, Jamal. I will present today's conference resolution to you. If you are agree with its clauses, please raise your hands and say hi. So the first clause of the resolution is, this conference asks the United Nations to acknowledge the party status of Balochistan in line with the international laws. By doing so, we seek to attention the Baloch nation's fight for self-determination, including their right to freedom as defined by international laws. We must recognize their right to self-determination and freedom, enabling their ongoing struggle to be seen and understood on a global scale. If you agree, please raise your hands and say hi. In Balochistan, the Pakistani military is committing serious human rights violations, while at the same time, multinational companies and various countries worldwide are investing in the region. It's time to put a stop to this investment in the face of ongoing human rights abuses. If you agree, raise your hand and say aye. This conference is raising a strong voice for the thousands of Baloch political activists and everyday Baloch citizens, including a significant number of women and children who have been forcibly disappeared by the Pakistani army. The discovery of mutilated bodies and mass graves in various parts of Balochistan is deeply disturbing. These heartbreaking realities highlight the severe exploitation faced by the Baloch people, exemplified by projects like CPEC, which have forcibly displaced thousands of families from their ancestral lands. It's high time to put an end to such exploitative projects. You are agree with it? Just raise your hand, sir. The ongoing projects like CPEC and Recordec project by Copper Gold, Touch and Company are directly linked to human rights abuses in Balochistan. We urge international organizations to step in and take action to prevent countries and companies associated with these projects from continuing their involvement in these abuses. If you agree, raise your hand. This conference demands that international organizations should carry out DNA tests on the hundreds of individuals laid to rest in neglected cemeteries in Balochistan. This step is crucial for family members who need to know if their loved ones were victims of violence carried out by the Pakistani Secret Services and its death courts. Conducting these tests will help bring closure to years of uncertainty and longing for the affected families. If you agree, please raise your hands. This conference demands that the United Nations acknowledge Pakistan's serious human rights violations in Balochistan, occurring on a daily basis. If you agree, please raise your hands. This conference calls on international media houses to address the complete blackout of media in Balochistan. international media should ensure access to the conflicted area of Balochistan so that the real situation is revealed to the world. So I agree, please raise your hands. This conference urges the European Union to stand in solidarity with nations oppressed by the Pakistani state, including the Baloch people, in light of the grave violations affecting Baloch, Pashtuns, and Sindhis. We propose suspending and conditioning aid to Pakistan based on GPS plus criteria. If you agree, please raise your hands. This conference appeals to the United States, a major provider of military aid and loans to Pakistan, to take a closer look at the ongoing Baloch genocide and human rights violations in Balochistan. We encourage a reconsideration and adjustment of its program in light of these pressing issues. You agree, please raise your hands. The conference called on the United Nations and the European Union to officially recognize Balochistan as a home region. 2 decades of relentless Pakistani aggression have forced thousands of families to flee neighboring countries and become IDPs. If you agree, please raise your hands. This conference urges the UNHCR to initiate an urgent relief program for Baloch refugees who have sought sanctuary in interior Balochistan, Sindh, and South Punjab due to the conflict in Balochistan. They must receive assistance for education, healthcare, and other essential human needs. If you agree, please raise your hands. This conference requests UNHCR to acknowledge that Pakistani aggression against the Baloch stretches beyond the borders of Balochistan into Iran and Afghanistan, where Baloch refugees find themselves in camps. We appeal to those countries to officially recognize Baloch refugees, register them, and ensure their complete protection. We agree, please. Yes. This conference demands that the United Nations and its affiliated organizations acknowledge the fact that Baloch refugees are being targeted by Pakistan's military entities, even in foreign lands. In a recent incident in Iran's Sham area, 10 Baloch refugees fell victim to this aggression, a majority of them being women and children. International organizations and civilized nations must step in and take action to prevent such inhuman act. If you are angry, please raise your hands. And finally, the sectarian extremism promoted under the patronage of Pakistan and Balochistan must be stopped. Measures should be taken to counter these religious extremists. If you are angry, please raise your hands. I think the hazard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rin. This was Niaz Baloch presenting the resolution in front of the conference. So we had the speakers, we heard everything they had to say about this conference, about the issue the people of Balochistan are facing. So without taking any further time, and as Dr. Nasib just asked, so we're just going for the lunch now. So our request our guests that they should be taken to the area where lunch is being served. And then after that, I believe there's a press conference by the chair. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.